Hi folks, it's Ela and I have a face. I am here. It's not just my hands demonstrating things. And today I'm going to talk about what it's like to learn something new. Because, I teach beginners all the time. I see the shock and the feelings that are going on their face. They tell me how they're feeling. And I try to learn something new on a regular basis just so I know how it feels. I can remember how it feels. And also it's fun. It is fun to learn new stuff, but it's also really uncomfortable. And I wanted to talk about that directly. What is the experience of learning something new? How do you work with your expectations? So first of all, what I often find, I think this is pretty universal, is that before you start, you have an idea about what doing that new skill will feel like or what you're going to get out of it. And it's rarely what actually happens, what it actually feels like. There's always a certain amount of shock, especially with art. People think about the drink and paint sessions where it's like, hee hee woohoo, I'm drinking alcohol and I'm having a good time and it's fun, and you're not really learning, and you're going to make a beautiful picture, and it's sort of like going on a ride. Right? You think that you're going to it's just going to be happy the whole way through, and you get a pretty picture in the end. And, people think that when they're going to take a knitting class or they're going to take my watercolor class. And if it really is a class where you're supposed to be learning something, that's not what it's going to feel like. You're not going to finish a scarf in a beginning watercolor class on the first day. I had a student who actually thought that was going to happen. You're not going to paint the picture that is in your imagination that you've been fantasizing about. You need to learn the skills first. You think you want to learn how to paint photorealistically, and I'll never paint photorealistically. There's the experience of making the thing, of doing the skill, and then there's the finished product. It's not going to be like in your imagination. It's going to be a different experience. And you're going to find out what kind of artist you are. It's going to be a discovery. It's going to be a surprise. So you have to let go of those expectations, and you have to be open to what's actually happening, what it actually feels like to learn and use that skill. You have to, first of all, you have to recognize the fact, this sounds really obvious, but people have a hard time admitting that they don't know something. It sounds obvious, but yeah, you don't know what it's like to paint watercolor. You don't know what it's going to feel like to play guitar or knit. You have to surrender. You have to let go, and it doesn't necessarily feel good. I remember teaching a beginning class, a drawing class, and I had a couple of students, older students. I think this, as we get older, it gets harder to admit you don't know, because we know so much, right? You've learned so much already. But I had these two older students explain to me that I was teaching drawing wrong, that I didn't know what I was doing. I was teaching them the exact same skills that I learned for my art degree at the California College when it was the Arts and Crafts in Oakland. I have multiple books demonstrating blind contour drawing, which was the technique they were objecting to. So it's like learning what your defense mechanisms are. Or maybe you just feel depressed or sad or scared because, oh my God, I don't know this. Yeah, it's okay. You have to there's some surrendering involved. You have to make room for something new to come in. I had a person at a party recently tell me that watercolor was counterintuitive. And it is, if you've never done watercolor before. It is counterintuitive because it's new, because you don't know how to do it. You have to do it for it to become intuitive. Intuition happens through practice. It develops through repetition and practice. The first time you try a new skill, whatever it is, it's gonna feel odd. It's gonna feel weird. It might feel wrong. It's really important to remember that this is not a forever experience. Trying a new skill is not the same as like tasting food for the first time, right? If you taste cilantro and you've never had cilantro before and you don't like how it tastes, you probably will never like cilantro, and that's totally fine. But if you don't like watercolor the first time, if you don't like playing guitar or trying to speak a new language or whatever the very first time, that's not the whole experience. You have to keep coming back and trying a little bit more and trying a little bit more. And eventually the experience will shift. It will begin to feel different. You'll have developed certain routines and paths and habits, and then it begins to feel familiar, and then you start being able to, you can kind of follow a thread of, okay, yeah, I know this ride now. And now you can begin to play and experiment with it, but you have to have those uncomfortable first experiences before you can build on them. Yeah, so you need repetition. Repetition is really, really important. You have to practice. It's just like hearing those people practicing piano up and down. I remember showing some students, beginning students, how to do light and shadow, we were painting some fruit and, creating highlights and putting shadows underneath. And this is a challenging thing to do. It's the last day of beginning watercolor that we were doing this. And I had these two students and they were saying, well, okay, so we did it. What do we do now? And I'm like, you do it again. You could tell they were beginners. You could tell this was the first, second, third time that they had ever done this exercise. And then, well, what do we do now? Oh, now you do it again. What do we do now? Well, now you do it again. And some people automatically just start doing it over and over again, and each one gets progressively better. And you look at it and go, what will I do differently next time? And you have to push away the you're stupid and you shouldn't bother trying, and instead just, can you be curious? Can you be interested? But you have to do it multiple times and be curious and ignore the voices that tell you to stop. You suck. You're not good. Why are you doing this? You were never artistic. This isn't for you. It's helpful if you're even a little bit obsessive, but that repetition, how do you get yourself to come back and do it? Not once a week, not only during class, but between classes. How do you fit a little chunk of your life, maybe before bed or when you first get up? When do you find those times to practice that skill regularly so that you can develop that muscle memory both in your body and in your brain of like, I know this thing, this is what happens when. If you can read, if you can ride a bike, if you can drive a car, if you can swim, then you've been through this process before. You can learn how to draw. You can learn how to paint. You can learn how to develop a new skill. You can do this, you've done it before, and you can do it again. Maybe is a skill that you really, really decide isn't for you. Knitting. I've had students drop out of knitting before. It is like running a marathon. It's not cute, it's not fast. Just because grandmas do it doesn't mean it's easy. But it is worth sticking around and doing it, and eventually you will be able to make a sweater. First time I tried learning how to knit, I remember talking to my husband and going, this is really kind of insane. We're tangling yarn around some sticks, and the yarn wants to fall off the sticks. It's like there was a period where it's like, is this really real? And now I can knit without looking at my hands, but I had to get into that obsessive state of practicing over and over again. Watched videos of other people doing it, watch the teacher. It's copy other people. Don't be afraid to copy. Yours will not look like theirs, but having some sort of model to follow. I know I like these colors. I'm going to show you what I'm doing here. Here we go. I know I like these colors. I know I like transparent. This is acrylic paint. I'm not comfortable painting with acrylic paint. This is a jelly print. This is all jelly print. This is the uncomfortable thing that I'm learning how to do. I had something familiar to latch onto. These are not turning out the way that I thought they were going to, but I made it work. This was like the total bust. I tried doing a photo transfer. Here's Viola Davis. This is Vogue magazine, right? I followed all the directions from the video showing me how to do a photo transfer, and it didn't work, right? The paint was supposed to pull off of something dark, right? Viola Davis. And then we've got a white background. It did not work at all. So I just started doing other stuff on top. And also yes and, the rules for improv. Rather than going, I'm stupid and it sucks and everything's wrong, what else can you do to it? It wasn't supposed to be the finished work. It was supposed to be the photo that the image transferred from. And instead I just turned it into the work of art. I shouldn't sell it. It isn't, I'm not the photographer, but I can still play and have a good time. It's another failure at photo transfer. This is actually more successful. At least we have some dark parts here. that's the accomplishment. Other people do it and it looks just like the photograph, but I'm not there. I'm still a beginner. This is me learning something new, right? I think this is my favorite one that I did, but I'm also using skills that I already have. This isn't so different from watercolor. I painted the whole thing, covered the whole thing with ink, orange to green, which are my favorite colors. And then I put a background around it. So it worked out. It looks pretty good. I like it. And then you remember, what did I do that made it work? Right? And then you can try it again and do a different version of it. I hope you find this helpful. I hope this gives you the courage to do something new. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye.